It's funny. I'm hearing background. It's funny, as soon as we start recording, it's like I'm being recorded and doesn't make sure. They don't say anything. Well, good afternoon. How's everyone doing? Got Christmas just around the corner, right? Yeah, can you believe that? Who's excited for Christmas? Have you guys
Not me.
your Christmas shopping already? And I haven't either. So thanks again. Appreciate you all being here. Before we start with our team meeting, let's give a round of applause to Fernando Diaz for providing that with the Isn't it good stuff? Yeah. Not your traditional pizza, right? And hot dog. So thank you, Fernando, for lunch. We're also going to recap after our team meeting. And we're going to share that after, if anyone likes the Tony's out of Redondo Beach. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So thank you, Fernando, again. Right after the team meeting, if anyone is interested in going to Tony's out in the pier, you know, part of Homebridge and Glenview. Okay. All right, let's continue. Next slide. As you all know, our mission and our vision to provide agents with a place where they will be empowered, trained, motivated to experience growth, wealth, and a legacy that allows them to live their best life possible. Our belief, when the values of your own company align with your own beliefs, you know you found your professional home. And our vision to achieve amazing professionals, personal development so that KW South Bay remains the agency of choice. Absolutely. Next slide. All right, let's bring a warm welcome to Monica Go from TLD Law, who's going to provide you with some insights to probate. So let's give her a round of applause. Yeah. Let's see.
Thank you. Does that one have to be muted? The one that you're on?
Yeah, it's Fernando's. Okay, I think that's it.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me and allowing me to speak to you. My name is Monica. I'm a certified specialist in estate planning, trust, and probate. I spend a lot of time helping families do estate planning in order to avoid probate. Unfortunately, I am also in probate court quite a bit because many families have not done the planning. So we'll talk about kind of what that looks like and what you guys should be recognizing when it comes to title and estate planning and probate and how to kind of guide your clients to avoid it. Next slide, please. When people talk about an estate, we're talking about really every facet or asset that you can think of. It's kind of like a puzzle piece. It's not just real property, although real property is certainly the biggest aspect of someone's estate. But we're also talking about their insurance policy, IRAs, savings, checking accounts, brokerage accounts, and also their personal property like jewelry. Next slide, please. So let's talk about some of these individual components and how they fit into an overall estate plan. Next slide, please. Why should you plan? It's so important to plan because you want to avoid the California probate court at all costs. It's expensive and it takes a lot of time. And the most important reason, not only to avoid probate, is so that you as an individual can control where your assets go when you pass away. And more importantly, it also helps you plan for incapacity during your lifetime, not just for what happens when you pass away. Next slide. So let's talk about what people try to do their own estate planning and what the more superior way of estate planning is. Next slide, please. So most people kind of know what a will is. It's a written document that sets forth where your assets go when you pass away. Sometimes we see it on these TV dramas, like the old soap operas, where they have a really big official will reading, be really drama filled, right? Everyone would show up, an attorney would stand up and read the will. That doesn't actually, but it was pretty dramatic for show, right? But unfortunately, in California, if you have nothing at all or just a will, you're going to the probate court. So a will is not enough to avoid probate. Next slide, please. Wills also do nothing to help you plan for incapacity during your lifetime. So the document only sets forth what happens when you pass away, and it goes through the probate court. Next slide, please. A durable power of attorney is a really important document that you can execute in conjunction with your estate plan to name agents who can take care of you and your finances in the event of incapacity. You want to always name at least one person and a backup person. And you're giving that person quite a bit of power to stand in your shoes and handle all of your financial transactions, including the sale of property. So make sure you're picking the right person. But it's very important that you pick the person versus someone going to court and starting a conservatorship in order to be able to do those things for you. Next slide. An advanced healthcare directive is also a document that you want to execute in conjunction with your estate plan because it allows you to appoint an agent to make medical decisions for you in the event of incapacity. It also gives them all of the HIPAA, the Healthcare Privacy Act, rights in order to access your medical records and speak to the doctors regarding your treatment and care. So this is a really important document because if you don't execute this yourself, again, someone can be going to court and getting a conservatorship over you in order to get these powers. And no one wants to drag their loved ones or family members into open court and have them declared incapacitated. It's a painful process for the family all the way around. So it's something that you want to avoid at all costs and that you can avoid by executing these documents. Next slide, please. So some people, unfortunately, just do nothing, okay? And if you do nothing, at death, your assets are going through probate court, and incapacity, again, you're going through the court in order to get a conservatorship. Next slide, please. Joint tenancy. Now, this is something that's really relevant to all of you guys as real estate agents and brokers. You see how people hold title, and some people hold title in joint tenancy so that when someone passes away, the surviving owner gets right of survivorship. The property passes to them without having to go to the probate court. So that in and of itself can be a good thing. If you've got two joint tenants, right? One passes, it passes to the survivor. Well, when that survivor dies, then what happens? It goes to the probate, okay? And there's some other not so great features of joint tenancy, okay? It's difficult to remove them. Like, it's not like you can take it back. There's no take backs when you add someone as a joint tenant. I've had parents ask me that all the time. I added my son, who I thought was a good son, as my joint tenant so that he would inherit the property. I need to take it back. Can't take it back. Son has to sign it back, right? And if the son is no longer a good son, we're looking at a host of problems. If son has an even worse wife, spouse, if he's going through a divorce, that property could be going through his divorce. If he got into a car accident and there's a debt against them, could be placed on your property. Joint tenancy is not a great way of passing property, okay? Because you're passing current ownership and that comes with a host of problems. Next slide, please. Hopefully I'm not going too fast, but I think I have a limited amount of time, so I want to get through as much
It's
material.
perfect. You're doing
Okay.
fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Another thing people try to do is they think, you know, I can avoid all of this and save a lot of money if I just give my stuff away during my lifetime. I'll just give it away. I'll go ahead and pass it on to my good son right now. Problem solved. Not solved, right? Because remember all the things I just mentioned? What if that son doesn't turn out to be so good? What if he goes through a divorce? What if there's a debt, right? What if he even turns on mom and dad and throws them out of the house? You can't take it back. Like, once you gift something, you can't take it back unless they cooperate. You lose control of the asset. And when it comes to something like real property, you need to report that to the IRS. You need to be filing a 709 gift tax return. You may not have to pay taxes during your lifetime because the exemptions are so high, but you have to report it to the IRS so that it's deducted from your lifetime exemption. So it's really important that you understand what you're doing when you gift it away. You also lose out on all these other great tax benefits. Like when you pass property on to someone after you pass away, they get what's called a step up in cost basis. Okay. It gets stepped up to the fair market value at the time of death, so that if they turn around and sell it, there's zero capital gains tax. But if you gift it away during your lifetime, they take it at your cost basis. So say you bought the property at $100,000 and now it's worth $1 million, and you gift it to your son during your lifetime, he takes it at the $100,000 cost basis. So if he sells it, he's looking at huge capital gains tax. Whereas if he had inherited it at $1 million fair market value at the date of death, and then turned around and sold it for $1 million, zero capital gains tax. Okay. Next slide, please. Beneficiary transfer. So some of the things that you can do, like with banks and brokerage accounts, and you see it often with 401k and life insurance, you can leave a pay on death beneficiary. You direct where that goes. Now, California has actually experimented with a gift deed, like a transfer on death deed, and it hasn't gone over very well. There's a lot of fraud problems. They're not quite sure how to interpret it. It's been causing problems with the recorder and certainly with reassessment of property taxes as well. So California is trying to create this, pay on death, even with a real property transfer deed. I don't see it working out, and I think at some point it would get repealed. So when it comes to real property, that's still not a great way of transferring title. And if people are asking you about those and forms, those transfer on death deeds, I would avoid it. I would tell them the law is uncertain. It's not sure how it's going to play out. And you don't want to be stuck looking at a probate or something worse, okay? Next slide, please. By far, the most important and best way to transfer assets to your family is to create a revocable living trust. A revocable living trust also sets forth in writing where your assets go when you pass away, but it also provides for your care if you're incapacitated during your lifetime. So you're the first and foremost owner and beneficiary. Everything is for you. You can still buy, sell, refinance during your lifetime. It's revocable. So if you change your mind, you can revoke it. It's amendable. So as people change, as relationships change, as our kids get older, as we have bad relationships with kids, you can accommodate all of those things in the trust. Like the trust can grow with you during your lifetime as your relationships change. But I cannot stress enough how important it is. It really also provides for your own incapacity during lifetime. It allows someone else to manage it for you. The assets can stay in trust. All of your family members can get a step up in basis when it comes to that property that's passed to them at death. So many great tax advantages. Also in a marital trust, the couple can double the exemption amount and pass double the exemption amount to their children. So if you have very high net worth individuals here with properties in the bay along the beach, and they want to pass on an enormous amount of wealth to their children, they can do that in a trust, and they can do it relatively tax-free depending on the planning. So it's so important. Next slide, please.
Do you have a will in conjunction with that?
People often do a will in conjunction with it. We call it a pour-over will, but it's not a document you ever want to use, because if you have to use the will, you're in probate court. It means that you left the assets outside of the trust. Yeah. So this is the ugliness of what probate fees cost, okay? And we're talking about small estates really in California, because the real property alone can be oftentimes worth more than this, right? So you're looking at large estates and looking at the probate fees as they grow and grow and grow based on the value of the estate. Based on the value of the estate, not the amount of work, not the amount of legal work needed, just the value that you're passing on. You get these statutory fees tacked on. You can avoid it by doing the planning, avoid it by doing the trust. Next slide, please. The most important thing is you keep control. Like, I hope you got the gist of that gifting or adding people onto title is not a good idea. And you guys probably see it all the time. People put their uncle on for financing. They'll add a kid on, for some kind of financing. Those are all bad ideas. They have gifted the property away during their lifetime. They might think it's still theirs. They might have a good reason why they think they added that person. But they've given away control, they've given up ownership, and they're really opening up their property to potential divorce proceedings, debts, creditors. It's a bad idea. Remember, when you do the right planning, you keep control. You can buy, sell, refinance as you could before. You can change it at any time. You can amend it, you can revoke it. And you can do so much control. I mean, if you like to control what happens after you pass away, the trust is for you, okay? You can control at what age it goes to your children, how they can use it. You can create a pet trust if you want. There are so many amazing things you can do with the trust.
How many
Next
pet
slide.
owners here?
Next slide, please. So I encourage you and for you to also encourage your clients to implement a 6-step plan, okay? Take an inventory of all of your assets. Write down your objectives, your ideas, like what is it that you want to happen with your wealth? Select the right person to help you. Interview a couple of people. Find out what they charge. See what your comfort level is. Do they listen to you? Do you feel comfortable with them? Do they explain things to you? Then once you hire them, have all of the proper documents prepared. Don't skimp out and do just a will. Make sure you do the trust and all the documents we talked about. Durable power of attorney, healthcare directive. Put the plan into action. And that is making sure you fund the trust. That was kind of going to your question, like, do you still need a will in conjunction? We do it, but we really never want to use it because we want to make sure everyone is putting all of their assets into the trust, including that real property, their biggest asset. And then you review it and you change it if needed with your attorney. Next slide. That might be it. Oh, deciding what the strategy is with your attorney. Some of these things are things that you should all be talking about. What is the overall value of your estate, whether you have a taxable estate? What are the types of assets you want to pass down? What is the cash flow that's needed? Because some people that are in a very high bracket are gifting some of their assets away in a planned gifting to transfer wealth to avoid estate taxes. Now, understand when you're making those gifts, you're giving those gifts at the current cost basis. So there's some give and take there. But the idea of doing that is to avoid death taxes later if you're in a very high bracket. So these are some planning things that you should talk about with your attorney because they need to see who the next generation is, whether they're capable of handling that kind of wealth now, and what that looks like for the future. Next slide. This is what I was talking about with some advanced planning. You can set up a marital trust, and it's oftentimes called an AB trust, survivor's trust, bypass trust. You might see some of these terms. You can talk about gifting. Right now in 2023, it's going to be $17,000 a year per person. You can gift your kids and grandkids without having to report it. Get set up 529 college funds, and you can do a lot of planning with insurance. So insurance is another question you should ask your attorney about, especially if you have concerns that your estate might have some estate taxes. Next slide. Some other things that you can talk about, especially when it comes to real property, is setting up LLCs, setting up an LLC real estate holding company to avoid liability, setting up a family partnership. And when you do that, then you can kind of use discounts and try to start passing wealth at a lower rate. So these are just some advanced techniques I just wanted to let you know that are out there for people with really high estates. Next slide, please. And that's it. I can stick around if you guys have any questions, or I can also leave my cards. You guys can feel free to call or email me, and I'd be happy to help you or any of your clients. Thanks for having me.
Monica, we have a question.
Sure. First of all, you're fabulous.
Oh, thanks.
This is something that's always really difficult to talk about.
Yeah.
All of us. The question I had was with regards to like a will, all that stuff, like the painting on the wall, I mean, things that might not be of great value, but as we as real estate agents know, quite often
That can be the sticking point. I mean,
It's
people,
like the inspection, like how people will pay $200,000 more and then they'll argue over $1,000.
absolutely, if they're not doing the cost benefit, it has a sentimental value.
Right.
So her question for anyone who couldn't hear was about personal property. And you're absolutely right. People are absolutely hung up on personal property. Some of it can be very valuable, like an antique painting. Some of it can be absolutely nothing, like fake jewelry. But they'll fight to the death over it. So as an administrator or executor, those things are really important. I always advise clients, leave lists or make gifts of personal property items. I oftentimes create what's called a memorandum of understanding for personal property that people can list where they want it to go. I have a lot of clients that, like, for instance, will put names on the bottom of things. So that it's, and then I always advise executors and trustees to secure the personal property on death so that it can be inventory. And then I implemented a lot of great ways to disseminate it. Like, I'll do a lottery system. Now we can use Google Docs, you can list all of the items and pictures, you can let people pick the items. If there's no conflict, you can let them have it. If there is a conflict, then I do a lottery and it works out. But people do fight over it to the death. It's true.
Let's give Monica a round of applause. Around, you're more than welcome. So thank you, appreciate it. Monica, is this your phone by any chance? Okay, just want to make sure.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Is this your water bottle?
We're gonna do- Okay, next, Fred Howard.
Hey, make some noise, y'all. Y'all know I'm not quiet, right? Now, I only have 2 words for you guys to say. When I say something, all I want you to do is say my house, okay? And I don't want you to whisper it. I want you to make it loud so we can hear you on the parking lot. Whose house is this? Now, listen, the reason I say that, and I know we're in real estate, but the reason why I say my house is because you are in control of your house, okay? So any excuses you make are your excuses of not being in business, right?
Right.
So I did a little video so that I don't have to talk. So Natalie's going to show it to you and you guys, go ahead, Natalie.
Dad, play that video real quick.
Hey everyone, it's Coach Fred here with some motivational moments to help you stay on track and on task. Let me ask you a question. Are you feeling overwhelmed with your real estate goals? Now, it's easy to get discouraged, especially if you're struggling to make progress, but don't throw in the towel just yet. We all hit plateaus sometimes, but with the right tools, you can get back on track and moving forward. First, focus on the big picture. That's your 1-3-5. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day details and lose sight of where you want to be in the long run. Take a step back and remember why you set the goal in the first place. Spend some time visualizing yourself after achieving those goals and remind yourself of the feeling of accomplishment. Next, break your goal into actionable steps. That's your 411. It can be overwhelming to take on a huge goal all at once. So identify intermediate goals and milestones that will help you get to where you want to be. Celebrate each intermediate success and recognize your progress. Finally, stay organized and consistent. Track your progress and make sure you're consistently taking the necessary steps to reach your goal. Set reminders for yourself so that you stay focused and on task. Create a plan and stick to it. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, and that success takes time, effort, and dedication. Celebrate your small wins along the way and don't give up. You can achieve your real estate goals if you stay focused and consistent. Now, if you want more information, go ahead and click my link in the bio or join our productivity class every Wednesday at 1:30. I'll see you on the other side.
He created this video this morning. So I'm seeing the same.
Yeah, I did it this morning. My mom probably thought I was crazy because I told her bye and I sat in the driveway for about 15 minutes while I was there. But listen, let me tell you something. You know that TikTok. Let me tell you something. let me tell you something, I can't remember all that. So I had to have it, so that I didn't mess up. And I only have a limited amount of time because I know your time is valuable. So if you're interested, what we're going to be doing in the productivity class, we're going to be doing our 135s and we're going to be doing our 411s. So you want to stick over, you can be able to do that on today. Thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
What a great video.
Hey everyone, it's
Let's get Fernando with home bridge up here real quick. Give him a round. All right, the meats and potatoes of why we're having this discussion. I wanted to kind of change it up a little bit, and this is why we have a famous Hoppin and Murphy team. So let's give them a round of applause. We want to do the team real quick. Awesome. Put it that way. Everyone is welcome.
Dancing with you at the party.
Love it.
Dance before every meeting. The energy was amazing. That was fantastic. I know for me, I did my trust when my husband died suddenly. And I talked about it. I sat across from people who had problems over and over 32 years of selling real estate and didn't do it for myself. So I beg you to do it because it's something nobody wants to talk about, but do it anyway. So my team, our team, starting right here, Susan Murphy. Our amazing listing manager, Nicole Shiro, our the most fabulous man because we're all women and is one of the residential specialists. Laura Robin, our team leader, our linguistic specialist, 11 years on the team right here. And our fabulous Carol Landauer, who is another residential specialist, our concierge, Angelica Colors, who is, brought us our and I always say your last name wrong, so Hartrap, one of our residential specialists.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. We're gonna have you up here in a moment, so be ready, okay? She's gonna be our guest speaker. So awesome. Thank you for introducing the team. You got this. All right, team, so thank you. Fernando and I have been working diligently to try to provide value, incentives, and what we're seeing right now in the market. With rates going up, the market being uncertain, I wanted to, kind of spearhead. Fernando was the one that brought it to my attention. Hey, let's do something a little different. Let's bring in some of the, top performers out there, what they're doing, what are the challenges, what are the struggles. As we close 2022 and then in the trenches of 2023, it was going to be a benefit to you and, to Fernando to provide you a scope of what he is also eliciting from the lending aspect of it. So without further ado, take it away, Fernando.
Hey guys, thank you for having me here and hope you guys enjoyed the food. Like Christy Buscemi, I did not make the food. Otherwise we'd have a lot of empty plates. But anyway, yeah, guys, Simon and I have been talking about this meeting and sort of saying, hey, how do we get more geared for 2023 as things have changed? Obviously, I'm going to talk to you guys in a second about what the Fed just did. I don't know if you guys know the Fed just finished their little meeting. Went according to plan, but his forward progress or his outlook is not in accordance with what I feel is right. So he sort of poo-pooed on some things, but we'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, Simon and I met a couple of times and went over this, and I wanted to show you guys this video, which is sort of, good information for you guys to have. We're going to kind of break this down into 3 topics, guys: economics, some of your buyer sellers concerns, and then some, ideas of value that we discussed and we had, a meeting on. So we'll break it in. We want this to be an all play, guys. So any questions you guys have, Anything that you see or hear here, please raise your hand, let us know. So here we go with it.
Fernando, click
Go ahead, dude.
Where you are
the little arrows.
That's the arrow. You need this one?
Yeah.
Well, let me back it up. We're not all the way there yet. Here's the volume.
Volume is up on our end.
Maybe it's mine. Yeah, there you go.
Percent for the previous year, new listings don't 8%.
If I'm connected. Muted.
Put it on your laptop.
My next to the one.
Use yours and then let them play with your.
Be here.
I got my.
That's what we're trying to do here, guys. That's the other thing too. If you look at, I don't care if it's housing, which is obviously not doing very well, generally speaking, but it could be any other sector of our economy. Was it Monday or Monday before last? I happened to wake up early, which I typically do, and I caught the CEO summit in DC from all the different sectors. And all of these guys, except for one, Mary Barr, who runs GM, but everybody else was poo-pooing going forward in 23, everything. Okay. So when you start getting more and more and more negative, it's like the ball or the wheel starts rolling slowly and then it starts building momentum. It's like all of a sudden it's going faster, right? But be wary of what you're hearing because some of it is not all bad. A lot of builders there. That's why, guys. A lot of builders. People have heard that one. Well, listen. Very true.
You know, they are so long as prices don't fall. Do you think that 2025 prices could fall and what happens? Trying to time the market, but for something even more important. Danielle, thanks so much for your time.
So what do you guys think of that? Did you hear doom and gloom? Not really, right? Didn't she say that if you find that house that fits your needs, jump in, right? So now, obviously, and I'm going to show you something which is interesting. How do I, oh, here we go. Exactly. How do I go here? Now, here's another thing that I'm going to show you briefly. I'm just going to, how do I get rid of this? I guess I can. I'll figure it out. Do you guys know who Black Knight is?
This right here?
Yeah. No, I see it there. No. I'm talking about my screen. That screen's fine. It's good enough. So Black Knight provides most of the data for just about every title company, mortgage company in the United States. I mean, they're like the data incubation system. That's what they do well. And so this report comes out quarterly typically, and I'm going to fast forward. Oops, what am I doing? Not fast forwarding. Let's go here. Let's change the pages.
Oh, no, it's that one right there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, son. You want to do it for me? Go for it. Let's get So let me get forget some of this stuff. You'll see it. You know, this is like, you know, loans rolling to more than delinquent status. So they're talking about delinquencies. This is, don't forget, a nationally based, but they do break it down by cities, counties. You'll see it here in a minute. Where's page 8, where I thought was interesting. So, for example, refinance candidates for 30-year fixes, as you can see, obviously the rates were, you know, going back in time, right? Now we're over here. There's not that many candidates, right? Because obviously the rates, the record rates already came and went, and that's what it is. Okay. But here's a good one. And by the way, you'll see it here. By the way, every single thing I'm going to show you guys, Holland has every single thing. So you can get it for yourselves. And then also any of these other marketing type flyers, anything that you guys want with your picture and your logos and stuff on it, just to send me an email with that information and we can get it for you. So you guys can have it for your stuff. So you'll see some side notes here. Okay, so you can see basically if you go back in time here in the 70s, 80s, and the 90s, where rates and the payment to income ratio, look, see how it stayed pretty much together? So rates went up, rates went down, but people's incomes went up and went down. And so the spread was very narrow. See it? See it? And then look, remember 2004 or 6, right before the boom, look, and then all of a sudden it came back down again. And then look at it right now. Massive. See the difference when you're looking through time? But and so this is all about affordability. This is what we're talking about here. So this is stuff that I encourage you guys to visit, like CNBC, go into the little real estate tab, take a look at, for example, that video you saw there. Some of this information is also in there that you'll see quoted in different I should say slides that they're talking about. Housing Wire is another good one, guys. I mean, I really like Housing Wire. If you guys want to write that down, definitely get a lot of good information. Most affordable markets in the United States, least affordable, LA. Look at the gaps, and it says it right here. While the needle has moved marginally in the right direction, every major market is still seeing affordability below long-run averages. And then it breaks down, different sectors of our country and what's going on. I don't want to get too detailed or too deep into it. Some of it I'll show here because it gets confusing, but we can spend some time on it one-on-one if you'd like. Months of inventory remaining, so you can see how much inventory is remaining versus, the average conditions of the market. Water about 4% inventory deficit, 511 fewer than normal, was a marginal improvement over the 43% shortage in September. So, inventory is obviously rising, so you can see improvements in that. Let's see, home price index, I don't like that so much, it's not that important. Change in median home prices in 2022. So you can see here, and by the way, it even lists here, if you look carefully, Los Angeles, right here. So you can see it by San Diego, Sacramento, Las Vegas, Austin, Texas, different areas. You can see all that information here. And here's another one. Oh, here's a good one. You'll like this. Let's see here. So this is home price growth. We can see the markets with the highest home price growth. I think it's pretty funny politically, all red states. And the markets with the lowest home price are all blue states. No, I'm kidding. So, but honestly, one of the things that, not to be political, which is kind of funny to me, but one of the things that I'll tell you is I was in, what's that? That no, I didn't. This is their report. You can find it online. No, one of the things that I did is I went to, and this is kind of speaking to some of this, which are some ideas for you guys. I went to Dallas for Thanksgiving because my daughter moved there. So the family went out there and we hung out with her. And I have a good friend of mine that runs our Dallas area branch. And he put me together with a good friend of his, who's a very high producing realtor in an area that I'm interested in looking at for her when her lease is up next year in June. So anyway, got into some good conversations with this guy. And then all of a sudden I said, hey, why is this area, this Greenville, near Lakewood area, but this Greenville area is sort of like I guess you'd say like the Hermosa Beach for young people. I mean, it's a lot of young professionals, beautiful little downtown area, and the streets are beautiful. The homes look nice, tons of redevelopment, tons of tear downs. You see investors in there, rebuilding homes and selling them. And you see a lot, you just see a lot of economic boom, a lot of positivity within that sector in Dallas. I'm like, that's interesting. So I started talking to him over coffee, and he is, salivating and getting ready, not only because a lot of companies are moving there, but the big one is Goldman Sachs just announced, and they're building a massive mega center that he showed me on the map. Basically like a secondary headquarters for themselves. They're not going to take themselves out of New York. And I don't know if you guys know who Goldman Sachs is, but that is like the epitome of a financial house on Wall Street. That's where a lot of people go to, that are from Harvard and Wharton and all that kind of, that's where they want to go. It's to Goldman typically, and get basically trained, beat up, and then sit out. So, but these guys do pretty well. So he is saying to me, 5,000 people, he showed me the article, 5,000 employees in the first phase are going to move to this mega tech center that they're building there. Okay. And he told me, like I said, this is him. I'm sure he did the research, that the average salary for these executives is $600,000 a year. Okay. In terms of what they've been making. So why is there all this building happening in this area? Why is all this stuff booming? What, you can see it. So I look at it as more, hey, I don't know if it's all from New Jersey or New York or other centers, but there are other situations just like this. And Simon and I had this discussion, like Toyota, for example, when they left. Who was all over that? How many listings were listed because these people had to leave and go to Texas, for example? Are we on that? Are we all over it? Are we working through it? Are we trying to get our foot in the door to be that person, right? And I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, Simon, a little bit.
Well, but I'd like to touch on also Tesla. Okay, everyone knows Tesla,
Yep.
right? Tesla has one of the biggest manufacturer location, I think is off of.
It's in Austin. Well, it's in Austin now.
Yeah, it's in Austin. Huge. I remember going there this year and it was like, it seemed like miles and miles and miles of this Tesla company. So most of you know that Hawthorne Tesla is also there. So what are the chances is that they pack up and leave?
So SpaceX guys in Hawthorne now.
Yeah,
And don't put it past Elon to take it all over there. Okay.
exactly, with Twitter, right?
And Twitter, yeah, don't put that past either. So, but I look at the opportunity,
The
guys.
opportunity
It's
is
there.
So.
The inquiry should be made, I would say, if you're a realtor, to find out who it is that's involved there in that, facilities people, et cetera, and find out if there is talk
or even a potential, are they modeling it out, looking at, they're not going to do it without obviously putting some work into it, checking, all out. So, well, if that's the case, I did not know that, but that's the last of the big three Japanese. Nissan left years ago to the Carolinas, I believe. Toyota went to Texas, and if Honda leaves, that's a lot of opportunity. Honda is right here in Torrance, guys. Tons and tons and tons of opportunity here, because it's not only Honda, it's all the suppliers that are here for them, guys. It's not just that. They're going to be taking a look at that. So once again, I look at it as, hey, that's a lot of listing opportunity. And I think with you guys, with your KW network, I believe you guys get referral fees if you pass them on to somebody, wherever the company relocates, I would imagine, right? So a lot of good there if that were to happen. Yes and no, right? Oh, this is just negative equity to a certain extent. I think it throws it off because the majority of these homes, they're saying that 450,000 homes of the people that bought in 2022 may be upside down right now. Well, that's because they were first-time buyer programs, VA zero down, and FHA. That's typically why that is. And this is on a national level in a lot of cases. So that is that on that. Any questions on this?
What's the most important thing right now that you should be focused on is data, right? We strive and we tell you, check the MLS, check the inventory, check what's going on in the marketplace. Data constantly be tracked. So data is very important too, because then it'll give you a way to have a conversation. As the lady was saying, we're not going to have a market crash, right? Like we did in 07, 08. But
and a lot of that has to do with the lending standards, guys. Now we actually have lending standards. Whereas before we, those of you that have been around long enough, we had no standards. Trust me. I feel guilty sometimes. It was horrible. Oh my God, yeah. It's like put a glass underneath their nose. Oh, you're alone. Right. I see some fog there. You're good. Yeah. So obviously, as you can see, that's part of the but go ahead, son.
But just to just reach out to your people as knowing the data, knowing stats definitely helps you have those conversations and put people at ease. I think I shared with you in the past, when you're having conversations with buyers, right, is look at the future of it, right? It's like putting money in a piggy bank, right? The asset is going to grow, the equity on the property, the mortgage balance comes down.
Tell them the story. Another thing I pointed out to Simon, I wanted to show him is, I don't know if you guys watched Face the Nation, but Jamie Dimon was on Sunday. You guys know who Jamie Dimon is? Anyone? He runs the biggest bank in the world, Chase. That's the guy. So he is in the know, not only here, but internationally, based on, the things that he do. Obviously runs the biggest bank in the world, right? So anyway, he made, when it came to housing, there was a lot of other topics that were covered, but he had the greatest line, or something that most people don't think about, especially your clients that are hesitant. Should I buy? Is it going to fall? Should I wait? Should I keep renting? And I'm going to show you something I'm renting here in a second. So he said, these are his words, mortgages and home ownership is how most Americans got their net worth. So if you think about it, and Simon and I had this discussion, if you look at some of your clients, some of your family members, some of your friends, okay, well, yeah, they have maybe a few bucks in a Roth IRA and a savings account and some other stuff. If their employer provides it, they may have a nice 401k after 20, 25 years, right? There might be 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 there, right? But all of a sudden, boom, they also own a house and they may have 800 to a million right there. So if you look at all the different things they have, what is number one for them typically? Their house. See that? So when you're talking to people, it's like, are you covering these things? Are you covering these projections for them? To say, hey guys, the home ownership is typically the rocket ship for you down the road for long term, not for a quick buck made in 12 months. But I think Simon, you told me about your parents, same kind of situation, right?
Yeah, I remember the nights. I was a fairly new real estate agent. The house that my parents own right now, 30 years later, it was the house that my parents rented. And when the owner was making the decision to sell the property, thank goodness I was a licensed real estate agent at the time. Fairly new. This was 95, 96. But I was able to navigate that and ultimately represent both the buyer and the seller. I didn't get a commission, by the way, so I was able to negotiate and help my parents with home ownership, and do the trenches, because my mother doesn't have a third grade education coming from Mexico, first generation. So in essence, they didn't have the same mindset that a lot of us do, entrepreneurs, business, way of thinking. But in all the ups and downs, the challenges, the '08 market, you know, and this is something that I definitely humble myself is that, you know, one of the things is it's not for Social Security and it's not the small little pension after working 30 years in the school district that can help, you know, the long haul. But it's the real estate that she continually holds. And, you know, and surprisingly, what we bought the place for back in the '90s, what it's worth now. And that's their little nest egg, you know, so that was just something that, you know, you can share stories on the importance of home ownership, right? It's, you know, take the interest rate, but marry the house, right? It's that mindset that's in 3 to 5 years, rates can come down, you know, refinance, you know, and hopes that the property value goes up, right? So.
And don't cheat on the house. Okay.
Kind of a, yeah.
You'll end up with that attorney lady out there. No. So yeah, so we discussed that, and here I'm going to pass these out, Rosie, since you're the first one here. You can pass it around. So speaking of rents, which Simon just said, boom. So here's something when you're talking to people, are you truly discussing this with them? Because here's what happens, guys. When people rent, and I was obviously a renter at one point, having fun as a younger person in life. Look at what happens here. And this is just a small range. Forget this. That's an extreme. I like these two brackets here. And look at these rents and look at the totals after 2 years and 5 years. Look at what ends up going to a landlord's pocket versus building your own wealth and equity in a home. And look how fast it happens. The problem, guys, is that most people have a mentality of, I just want to rent something where I'm comfortable and continue to live my life the way it is. So they look at it on a 30-day basis. They look at it as $2,500 or $2,950 or $3,550 a month. They don't look at it as, holy smokes, look what I just did over 2 years or 5 years. They never look at it that way. So it is your job to basically get that message out there to encourage them to basically not throw all of this away, depending on where, you know, where they're at here, right? You don't need to take a picture of it because we have it all for you. Now, another thing we did for you guys for this is this. And here's where I'm trying to scroll down. So
Right here.
yeah, I see it, but no, you don't see mine. I have this thing here in the way.
I can help.
All right. Perfect. Right. So we're going to scroll down. Now you guys can have this too, and co-branded. It's funny. Well, I have a funny story. So I took one of my realtor friends called me and says, hey, Fernando, can I use this video? I do monthly videos. I don't know if some of you guys may get them. And I said, yeah, go ahead and use it. He's like, but I want to, you know, put my information and everything on it. So what he sent me is instead of sending my video, and asking permission, he sent me the video. He already did everything. He already copied it over. It was him, except for me to talk it. I'm like, okay, go ahead and do it. But same thing here. You guys can go ahead and do it. So look at this. This is a great little booklet for you guys on renting versus buying. And here's the table of contents, very simple. And I made this very simple. I had marketing just keep this extremely simple and to the point. So the benefits and limitations of renting, owning, and judge what makes sense for you, right? Because everybody's in a different point. So as you go through this, let's get down here, rent or buy, benefits of home ownership. All right, so everybody, a lot of you guys obviously know all this. Benefits of home ownership, builds wealth, right? We just talked about that. Adding equity every month versus all those thousands of dollars going to the landlord. Mortgage is automatic savings, okay, because you're paying down. And also you can tap into your house if you need to as a HELOC, et cetera, to get, you know, if you need it at the time, maybe an emergency or something that comes up that's a good investment for you. Buyers cheaping than renting over the long term. Typically the break-even point is about 5 years or more versus 5 years or less, okay? So be careful, you know, for some people, tax deductions, all these things. I'm not a CPA or an EA, but I always advise people to meet with their accountant and review this option for themselves. And then the capital gains exclusion, obviously down the road, if they decide to sell, married or single, that's on there too. The benefits of home, it keeps going, right? So you have the good and the bad, right? Upkeep, you know, HOA fees, for example, if you have a condo townhouse, in different insurances potentially. Okay, so we cover all that, and I don't want to get too complicated right now with it. When to consider renting, okay, short term. There's some things here, some good verbiage that you guys can read. And basically, it also, once again, what we just showed you on a different slide is covered there. keep going, so not very long. Condos is a compromise, all right, so we talk about that. For some, this may be a better situation versus a single family, so it breaks down condo versus single family. Okay. Pros and cons. And then what's your credit? They can just QR code their credit score, look at for a HELOC, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end of the day, you can put your information down here too. Does that look pretty good to everybody? Something useful? All right. So what else here? You can pass that around here. Rosie, you like, actually both. Here you go. Hey. Now, on part of the video that we just saw was about affordability in terms of that Black Knight report that I showed you. Remember the big spread between rates and incomes, right? In terms of the housing costs and all that stuff. So I know we've beaten this, drum a bunch of times, but the buy downs guys, they're very powerful. Okay. So one of the things that one of my agents that works outside of this office does with clients when he's out there door knocking and talking is he'll do this. He will basically state, hey, Rosie, if I can get you into a house and save you $18,000 in the first 2 years in payments, would you consider buying? And they're like, what are you talking about? How are you gonna save me $18,000 when I have to make payments? He's like, I'm gonna show you. Okay, in that particular case, it's an $800,000 loan at a note rate of 6.25. That was right there. He's like, I'll show you this model if you come to my office, or I can come to your house and I'll show it to you. Or he could say, how would you like, Rosie, to save $35,000 over 3 years if you bought a house? If I showed you how to do that, would that interest you? He's like, what are you talking about? I have no idea. This guy's probably crazy or, wasting my time. Well, he's like, no, let me show you. Okay. So right there. So that's what he uses, guys. And also you have to keep in mind, you could also break this down another way, whether it's this model or that model, it doesn't matter. All right. Divide that out by 36 months, 3 years. Okay. That is money basically that you could say is the savings that you're earning towards your payment. Okay. But I think more importantly, a long time ago, when these first came out, maybe 6 months ago, I saved a deal for an agent because the guy wanted to cancel. It was, remember, cancellations were going left and right at the time because rates were going like this, just starting to train up as we go. But what's happening, and this is what Simon and I were talking about, is they were not having the conversation with that particular buyer. He just wanted to cancel. He was done. The rates keep moving on me. I'm getting out of my comfort zone. It's a single income house at the time with 2 small kids. But as I talked to him, he said one thing that just did send out a trigger. He's like, the problem is that Fernando, right now it's a single income household and he works for like Raytheon as an engineer or something. But my wife is going to go back to work in the next year. All of a sudden, boom, wait a minute. He never told, nobody discussed that with him. Okay. And she's like a professional of some sort, makes another $80,000, $90,000 a year. So I wouldn't mind the payment if she was working, but right now it's a big burden on the family because we have 2 small kids and it's a single income home. Okay. So I said, okay, well, at the time I just presented this model. I go, what if we showed you something like this? Right? Because in 2 years, when the rate goes back to the true rate, your wife's going to be working. Probably in a year, she's going to be working. So now you can afford the payment. And he's like, nobody ever said this to me. I don't know what you're talking about. And say, okay, so we convince the seller to pay the money or for canceling and move the deal forward. That's it. But the key is, are you having those deep down conversations with your clients today? Because that is the difference maker today. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Is it a bad idea? What else? All right. Let me see here. You can pass that around. Has to do with that. The other thing too, I was talking to our secondary marketing guy in New York. What they're seeing is 2 things. Cash obviously is buying big in terms of the neighborhoods. Okay, buying big. In terms of what's out there right now, in terms of what's the percentage of properties being purchased. First time buyers though are the biggest sector that he sees overall, besides what he calls non-QM loans. I don't want, those are like bank statement programs, things like that, that people that don't qualify traditionally. So the first time buyer, guys, is the powerful one right now for you. And I would highly, highly recommend, becoming an expert in buy downs so that you can translate that over to them. Also the first time buyer programs. So for example, one of the things that I'm starting to see more of, and I'm getting people more in line of, when you get a listing in a certain area, why not use CalHFA? Advertise, hey, if you make under $180,000 a year in LA County, you're potentially eligible for a first-time buyer program on your remarks. Okay, that's going to get, interest going, right? Today's rate, I think it was at 5.75, which is really good. It jumped up to 6% for some unknown reason, because the rates have been holding down, but it did. I think it's a great way to push a property, or at least advertise and say, hey, if you're a first time buyer and you and your husband or wife or whatever make less than 180,000, there's some potential good programs available for you for this home. Just leave it to the side and let's see what happens, right?
Hey, Fernando.
Yep.
Let's kind of transition a little bit and let's get Maria.
Yeah. Okay.
And just kind of give you guys a perspective of what her and her team is seeing out in the
Yeah.
workplace.
So we asked Maria, I texted her and talked to her about coming in here and seeing how the team has pivoted since the beginning of the year to now. And that's kind of, I think, what a lot
You're
of us
gonna be in the hot seat.
you and I'd like to hear about it.
Actually,
You can stand.
you know, great leaders are the people that elevate other people. And I, before we go on, I just want to say something about home ownership. We've been doing this a really long time. Home ownership, you look at any immigrant that came into this country, any person, the land that you own created you to have power in this world, in the United States, in any country. So what we're doing here is we are changing people's lives. We're giving them ownership on their own property. So I always think about the interest rates, all of the bullshit that we're hearing everywhere, right? It's all about changing people's lives. That's what we do each and every day. So when you're in those people's homes, that's what you're gonna make happen. And all of the rest of this is just noise. So I want to call up Matt, Laura, and Sue, because Matt's one of our residential specialists, Laura's our lead listening specialist. So she's the most articulate speaker I know.
Yes.
And I better not. So I think the three of them, and they love to stand.
All right, we're putting everyone on the hot seat.
I guess.
You gotta speak loud and proud. Sure. So right here, because the camera, even though you're looking over here, the sound is over here on the center of the television, so. So tell us what you guys are seeing out there right now.
And what you're telling clients,
What we're telling clients, in particular to mortgages or everything.
well, just in general, like when they express concern about buying and selling, et cetera, like what's the message you're sending right now?
Well, so Matt typically deals with buyers on the team and I deal with sellers and Sue deals with everyone. But on the seller side, obviously, we're seeing a lot of people that have more equity and don't want to move up or leave their current interest rate of 3%. So convincing people, that really do need a bigger home. It's more about, again, I love Simon's, I've used it many times, by the way, since you told it to me. We do our 401s together. But date your rate, marry your home, because that interest rate is going to go up and down and fluctuate forever, right? But the home that you want to live in for the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to be gaining equity in that home. You're going to date your interest rate. You're going to refinance again and again. But if you're not in the home that you want to be in for the next 5 to 10 years, why are you staying there? Because of the 3% interest rate. And how much is that really going to cost you? Another 3% over 10 years of home ownership based on, your loan, and what equity are you going to be gaining over that 10 years point? Because we know that even if the market comes down, 5 to 10% in the next year, we're still going to always be up. We're up 20% year over year. So again, we're always going to be on that incline of valuing your home and building that equity over time. So that's what we're talking to sellers about. Mostly if they want to move and the objection is the interest rate. But we are seeing a lot of sellers who are calling us about either death in the family, seems to be pretty popular one right now. Divorce seems to be another popular one coming out of COVID. And we're also seeing aging parents having to downsize. So, making sure that you're reaching out to people who have been in their homes for 10 years and talking to them about where they want to move, where they want to be for the last 5 years of their life, or are they in a place, have they done their will, their trust, that kind of thing. Making sure that you're informing them of how to be prepared for what's coming, toward the end of their life.
Beautiful.
Is that helpful?
That was good. Anyone else?
Matt, you want to talk about buyers? What are you seeing with buyers?
Sure, yeah, like she was saying, obviously buyers are, kind of, you get a lot of people wanting to hold off due to rates and stuff like that. The most motivated people seem to be, like she was also saying, those big life-changing moments, maybe they had a new kid, something like that. That's where you're finding your really super motivated buyers. It's not the market of what if, or, just, the rate's low, so let's just throw in a couple offers, it's really kind of those people who need to make this move and they need somebody to help them, especially with the rates being up.
What are you saying when they say, I don't want to buy because the interest rates are so high?
First thing I say is I don't have a crystal ball, obviously.
Right.
But then, we talk about refining down the line. Also right now with days on market going up, inventory going up, it's a unique opportunity for them, where, you had to basically place a lot of offers sight unseen, that's because the house would be gone on Monday from being on the market for 2 days or whatever that looked like. Now they can really kind of take their time and get into a house that makes sense for them, as opposed to just trying to pull the trigger on everything and feeling rushed all the time. And also they're getting a lot of concessions back when they do finally pull that trigger. So they're in a position of power. I mean, I'm sure you guys see it once you're in escrow and request for repair happens and all of a sudden they're asking for the moon, right?
Well, that 3% interest rate is never coming back, right?
Right,
So we're
right.
back to pre-COVID interest rates of 5 to 6%. And that COVID time period, I'm not supposed to use the word pandemic, apparently, according to my video after yesterday. But anyway, the 3 days are gone, they're never coming back again. So it's like, just get used to the new norm. 5 to 6, I know we're not in the feds right now, but 6 and up, 6.5 is not a bad interest rate. I mean, it's still super low and historically, yes. And if you look over the last 10 years, right?
And I will tell you guys 2 things, like literally 60% of the purchase loans in the office right now that we have are exactly what you talked about, divorces or parents having to either move in or some kind of, reorganization of the household because the parents are sick or just got diagnosed with something or whatever it may be. But it's people that basically have to do something, not people that are thinking about doing something and are not really pressured. So yeah, I will say that's part of it. So go look for divorce attorneys and because that's what the difference is.
What about you, Sue? What are you seeing out there?
So I guess what I'm seeing is just really what Matt said, that the people who are buying or selling now are people who have a compelling reason to do so versus the people who just want to get in on the low interest rate. So our job is to find those people. And what I always tell my team is, I'm not sure how many homes are sold in the South Bay every year, but I think it's around 4,000. Which means 8,000 sides, or maybe it's even just 4,000 sides. But at any rate, if what you want to sell is 10 or 20, or in our case, 150 homes, that's all we have to find. We only have to find 150 people or 10 people or 20 people of those 4,000 people. So they're out there and there are people who are going to buy or sell. So that's, I mean, easier said than done, but that's the focus that you should have, is just finding those people who have a compelling reason and asking the right questions when you talk to people to see if, if there's someone who is going to raise their hand in the next few months. That's the, honestly, that's not any different than we give everybody, because we're always looking for this.
Yeah, and I will tell you guys something, and actually I made a video on this. I was in Del Mar for a manager's meeting in November, right before Thanksgiving, and a client of mine called me late at night, and I was getting ready to go for the dinner thing. Different, I need a pre-approval letter. We found the house we wanted. And do you have a second to talk? And because this was all via text immediately. And I said, yeah, my assistant sent it to you. And then they said, do you have a second to talk? And I said, yeah, give me a second, I'll talk to him. So I called my assistant to take care of the letter. And then I talked to him and I said, yeah, what's going on? And they're like, hey, we wanted to ask you something. Like every single person at our work is telling us not to do this, that it's going to crash and it's, we're going to lose everything and blah, 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 the sky is falling. And I said, well, it may correct. I'm not going to call it a crash. It could correct in the future. But I said, and this is based on some of the stuff you guys said, your conversation. I said, well, let's break it down. Okay, first of all, yeah, rates are higher. You're going to pay more than you did. They've been looking out for almost a year. So a year ago, things are different, right? So we know that is there. But right now, projections are showing that rates may curtail down, and you can take advantage of that at any time where we see it's a good idea for you to refinance and lower your payment, right? So now let's put that to the side. All right, now number two is, I assume that the offer that you're gonna write is below asking price. Is like, yes. And is your agent gonna ask for the closing costs like we talked about? Yeah, they're gonna go for 20,000. I go, really? Okay, great. Now you may not get all that, but I guarantee you're gonna get a lot of it, okay? Especially if there's not a lot of action on this house and it's been on the market for 45 or 50 days, right? Okay, great. You remember when you guys were shopping 9 months ago? Was any of this even a thought in your offer? No, exactly. Okay, so that's a good thing. So now let's put that to the side. Now, third, and this is the biggest one. I said, guys, I have owned real estate for 25 years or more. I bought it low, I bought it high, it's gone up, it's crashed down. 2008 happened, everything went in the toilet bowl. I still kept them. Then everything went back up again. Now it's correcting. So it doesn't. It's real estate is like a stock. It goes up, it goes down, it splits, it goes up again. It's, et cetera, et cetera. It goes bankrupt, it comes back, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, but here's what I will tell you: in all the years that I've owned real estate, and including the house that I live in now, the value of the real estate doesn't matter to me. And like, what do you mean? Because I'm not interested in selling anything, and I've never been interested in really selling anything. Now, the day may come when maybe I want to sell my home, or I want to sell one of my investment properties and do something. And at that point in time, by the way, and I know you guys 2 small kids, a husband and wife. This is your first house, and they're paying over $3,000 a month in rent. Okay, in 3 years, that's $108,000 that they're wasting. I said, in your case, this is a 10, 15-year minimum project for you. Okay, so the only time you should be concerned about the value of your home is in 10, 15, 20 years when you decide to sell it, because maybe now you want to retire, your kids are out of state, you want to be near your grandkids. That's when the value of that real estate should matter to you. What does it matter if it goes down 10% next year or over the next 2 years? What do you care? You're not selling. All right, and over time it may come back up. That it's a place for you to make memories, to raise your kids, to have your family and friends over, et cetera, et cetera. That is what this home is for. It is not, a crapshoot or trying to make a quick buck. That'd be different. And they said, you know what? Nobody's ever explained it to me like that. You're right. I go, so in 15 years, when you want to sell it, then let's talk about your price, your value. And in the meantime, look at all the tax benefits and the equity and depreciation you got along the way versus renting like you do now. That was that.
I would say, the other thing I would say is right now, you're not going to talk anybody into buying a house. I mean, I think when people are on edge, there's a lot of good scripts that you can use with them in conversations. I don't say scripts anymore, but the main thing is to find the people who you don't have to talk into it because they need or want to buy. And what we've been hearing from the groups that we mastermind with all around the country is that you have to do 3 to 4 times the amount of conversations we might have been having a year ago to find those people. So don't just beat yourself into the ground talking to those same 10 people that you've been trying to get to move off the stick. You have to be talking to way more people so that you can find the ones who are, we got to be in, our rental just got sold. We have to be in a house and it's not time to buy. Whatever, the kids went off to college and we need to get our equity out and move to something smaller. So just concentrate on talking to more people and finding the needs of those we have to do.
And just as a tagline on that. Am I talking really loud?
No, you need to speak up.
It's loud in my head. I spend most of my time. One thing I think is really important right now is that we cut our costs. Real estate agents are notorious for buying stuff that they think is a magic bullet. And we've done a real deep dive into all the stuff that when you're making lots of money and you're like, oh, we'll just sign up for this and do that. But really, this is a face-to-face, voice-to-voice business. So pick up the phone. You'd be very surprised, even if they're 35 years old or 25 years old, that you put a call in. I made 5 calls on the way over here. And actually, I didn't want to have a conversation with them. I was glad I got a voicemail. I just said, I'm thinking about you. It's the end of the year. I'm grateful. So all those people that you have sold houses to, your family, your relatives, that doesn't cost you any money to create relationships. We are in the relationship business that happens to sell houses. We're not in a housing business. So therefore, pick up the phone. It's difficult to do and it's face to face, whatever it is that you're doing in any environment, your church, your kids' soccer, it's your daycare. It's checking in and you're not trying to sell them a house. You're trying to build a relationship and create trust. All of this stuff, you've got experts, right? I mean, we all know, we can say, I don't really know, let me let you talk to Fernando about that. Let me let you talk to Susan. How many times a day do I say, let me let you talk to Susan Murphy about that, or Laura, or Matt, or Nicole? So let's keep that in mind, that our business does not cost us a lot of money to generate. And as we go into this, when we may have some tightening of our belts, that's what we really want to focus on. And I'm just saying this out loud so that I can hear it myself. I remind myself, stop reading.
Beautiful, awesome. Well, let's give them a round of applause. We gotta continue. We got an ugly contest, ugly sweater contest.
Well, let me give you the last thing, guys.
Okay.
This is very, you and I
All
talked
right,
about.
stick around. We
We got one more thing. So we talked about ideas to add value, guys. I'm gonna pass this out right now. Do I have it here? So guys, real quick. Some of my older relationship guys that have run big teams, two big things that they've done, they taught me and it still works. One of them is going back to this because it worked so well for him years ago. And here are all the businesses, the big corporations in Torrance. And here's a list of all the small businesses that applied for licenses over the last year and their phone numbers and addresses. Holland has all this. What they were doing, guys, is he was calling the HR departments and going to these businesses. He was mostly focusing on 10 to 25 employee, 10 to 30 employee businesses. He would buy a couple pizzas at Costco, for example, or Domino's, bring you the case of water, and just sit there and take questions from the staff about buying and selling, or maybe the children, maybe getting them into a home, et cetera, et cetera. It is a bulletproof idea. By the way, you don't even have to start with the city of Torrance. You can start with your past clients, right? They all have jobs, they all work somewhere. Your friends, your relatives, what businesses do they work at? What people are in your world that you guys can take advantage of? This is a great thing. You know, what they typically do is they do a first meeting and then they'll say, hey, I'll bring a lender next time. They'll call me and say, hey, Bernard, you're available for this quick lunch and learn. They have plenty of questions too. So I do that with you too. If you guys get the opportunity to do that. The last one, guys, is, and I've said it before, is all the sales that you guys have done this year in this office and all the neighborhoods. Take those offers and walk the neighborhood, knock on a door and say, hey, I need your help. Excuse me, sir, I need your help. You're not bothering them. Don't wear your KW shirt. You need assistance and help. And I said, well, what is the problem? You have a flat tire I can help you with? No. We had 10 offers on this house. Only one family got their offer accepted. There are still 9 other families looking for a home here in this neighborhood. You know, can you give us a hand here? Are you interested in selling? You know anybody in the neighborhood that is, or are you interested maybe in selling in a year or two? Okay, we could potentially, you know, get you a good price with all the activity that has happened here in this neighborhood. Who thinks that's a good idea? And that's, you're not even cold calling. You're just asking, hey, excuse me, sir, I didn't bother you. I really need your help on something. What is it that you need my help on? Well, here it is. That's it. Very non-confrontation. And that's all I'm gonna leave with. Good. Yeah, let's go.
All right, where's Carlos at? Where's Carlos? Somewhere hiding in there. Let's get all the let's get everyone that has ugly sweaters to come up to the front. Come on, everyone. We have a couple of them. Diane? So, what else is going on? I don't know. Hey, you get up there. Aaron, here. So I think. It's gonna be spring, okay, so each spring get a chance to win a $50 gift card. If there's anyone else that here that wants to participate, this is your last chance. If not, all right, it's gonna be based on applause, okay? So if you apply, one of those, you're gonna. Okay? Well. We all look for the judges here, so we'll start right here. Fernando, you want to help with this? Or,
What do you got?
all right, just. you can choose.
I can't even-
All right, so it's based on the loudest clap and all that, okay?
Yeah, let's see.
What is?
There, the crowd is.
Okay, I count of 1, 2, 3. Okay, all right, so let's get the 2, and then the rest, I'm sorry, you guys. Thank you.
Where you going? You're in the running. You're in the running. Hold on a second. Sure. Yes.
All right. Here we go, loudest.
Ready?
What? All right. Thank you. Thank you. Don't forget Tony and the here, Fernando Diaz, and anyone that's interested in going, please head out there. Appreciate you all. Thank you very much. It's happy hour now.
It's Christmas. Baby, please come home.